I watched in silence as my wife's secret lover strutted confidently through the front gate of my home, his footsteps echoing arrogantly across the stone path I laid myself. He was completely unaware of the carefully orchestrated trap waiting for him just beyond the threshold. "You need to hear this," said Mark, leaning back in his chair with a half-smile, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. His voice was steady, yet there was a subtle undercurrent of something darker. "You remember how everyone thought Lucas and Alina were the picture-perfect couple, like something out of a magazine? The man had it all charmed, that disarmed even the coldest room. Career managing upscale resorts in Santorini, and a wife who turned heads the second she walked into a gallery. She wasn't just beautiful. She had presence, poise, that rare elegance that makes people stop mid-sentence just to look." He took a deep breath, eyes narrowing as he continued. Everything was golden for them. Weekends on private yachts, candlelit dinners, overlooking cliffs, spontaneous trips to Mykonos. And Lucas, man, he was in deep when he talked about her. It was like he was under a spell. But things change. Sometimes they don't change with a bang. It starts quietly, unnoticeable. A slow, creeping shift. Mark paused, his fingers drumming lightly on the edge of the table. It started with the small things. Lena getting distant, glued to her phone at dinner, always distracted, always somewhere else mentally. Lucas chalked it up to work stress. He gave her space, understanding, but that was his first mistake. Giving her the benefit of the doubt when his instincts were screaming otherwise. His voice dropped to a near whisper. One evening, rain hammering the windows, Lucas was tidying. Up after making her favorite dinner, Alina came home late again, said she had some last-minute event at the gallery. She barely looked him in the eye, kissed him on the cheek like a stranger, and drifted upstairs. Routine by then. But when he picked up her soaked trench coat, something inside the pocket caught his attention. Just a folded receipt, innocent looking, but Lucas said the weight of that paper felt like a loaded gun in his hand. Mark's expression darkened, eyes scanning the room as if the memory itself still haunted him. It was a receipt from the Delacroix Hotel, one of the fanciest in Athens. Dated 3 nights prior, the exact night she told him she was working late preparing for an exhibit. The moment he saw the date, he said it felt like a trap door opened beneath his feet. But still, he didn't confront her. Not right away. He was too smart for that. He knew a single receipt wasn't enough. He needed the full truth. Mark leaned forward, his tone turning icy, so Lucas waited. And then one morning when Alina was out at a yoga retreat, he opened her laptop. His hands were shaking so badly he had to steady himself on the desk. The first half hour, nothing unusual. Work emails, shipping schedules, invoices. But then he found it. A thread between her and someone named Leon. It began innocently discussions about lighting, an artist's installation. But soon the messages took a turn. Flirtation, then longing, then a gut-punching message from Leon. Last night was unforgettable. I keep replaying it in my head, Alina's reply. Same. I can't stop thinking about Friday. Mark looked away, his jaw clenched. Lucas said he stared at the screen for hours, unmoving, not crying, not yelling, just numb. It wasn't even the betrayal that hurt the most. It was the realization that everything he believed in was a lie. But still, he didn't explode. He became silent, focused, dangerous. He took a sip from his drink and continued. Lucas wasn't the only one. I had my own demons creeping in. You know how you never expect your whole life to change on a normal rainy Tuesday? That's what happened to me. Inro walked through the door, rain dripping from her coat, her hair tangled and wet, but her eyes, they were somewhere else, distracted, cold. I didn't say anything. I was just tidying up the dining room when I picked up her coat. A hand brushed against something stiff in her pocket. Another receipt. Mark's voice went hollow. It's one from the Avani Hotel in Berlin. Again, the date matched the same night she claimed she was stuck late at the gallery. My chest tightened so violently, I thought I was going to collapse. I said nothing. I slipped the receipt into my wallet and watched her fall asleep beside me that night, peaceful like nothing had happened. The ceiling, my thoughts gnawing at me like rats in the dark. The intensity in his voice deepened. In the days that followed, the signs multiplied. The phone clutched tightly to her side. One-word answers, forced smiles, and those impromptu gallery trips that kept showing up on the calendar like smoke screens. I couldn't pretend anymore. I was living with a stranger. I had to know. Mark took a deep breath. The kind that signaled pain had long since turned into resolve. One morning, after Nora left for her so-called client meeting, I sat at her laptop. My fingers trembled as I typed in her password. At first, nothing. But then, in her sent emails, I found him Theo. She called him T. Their emails started out with artwork and ended with seduction. One message from him read, "Your skin still lingers on my fingertips. Can't wait to have you again." Her reply, "Friday, can't come soon enough." Mark blinked hard. You imagine reading that about someone you've built your entire life around? I was destroyed, but I didn't let it show. Not yet. I started connecting dots. I dug deep into Theo's life. Turns out he was married. 2 children, a polished life. Corporate. Consultant. Clean image. Fake everything. I hired someone to follow him. Photos, logs, times, places. I built a case not to hurt them, but to hold up the mirror. He tapped the table as if grounding himself. One weekend, I told Nora I had to fly to Valencia for a last-minute business summit. She barely reacted, almost seemed relieved. Got kissed. Her goodbye, and walked out the door, suitcase in hand. But I didn't go far. I parked 3 streets away and waited. As dusk fell, Theo arrived in a sleek black car, flowers in hand, like some twisted scene from a romance film. Mark's tone turned, razor sharp. He walked into my home like he belonged there, like it was his. I waited, gave them time to get comfortable, and then I unlocked the door. Quiet, calculated. The living room was dimly lit. Music played low. They were curled up on my couch, sipping wine, laughing. When they saw me, the room went dead. Nora turned ghostly pale. Theo stood frozen glass. Midair. He leaned back, expression unreadable. I didn't scream. I didn't throw punches. I just dropped a manila folder on the table. Inside, printouts, photos, transcripts, receipts, all neatly organized. Then I said, 3 words. Explain this now. He shook his head slowly. Nora broke into tears, said she was lost, lonely, that it was never meant to happen. Begged, claimed it was a moment of weakness. I told her you didn't just cheat. You set fire to our life together and handed him the matches. Theo tried to excuse himself. I blocked the door, told him you don't walk away from this, eventually. He stumbled past me like a drunk ghost. Mark's voice turned low and flat. That night, I slept alone in the guest room. The next morning, I was at my lawyer's office, presented everything. Nora had no defense. She lost the house, access to my accounts, and even our mutual friends. Stopped answering her calls once they saw the truth. I made sure Theo's wife received every piece of evidence, too. Within weeks, his world came crashing down. His wife left. His firm dropped him. Everything gone. Mark exhaled. People call it revenge. I call it justice. But even then, I didn't let it corrode me. While packing up, I found old letters Nora had written and never sent. Pages of raw emotion, fear, guilt, apologies. She never had the courage to voice. She said she never stopped loving me. For a moment, I felt something close to grief. For her, but for the version of our life that could have been. He stared at the wall, distant. But regret doesn't heal wounds, just lingers like smoke in the ruins. I left it all behind. Now I'm living in a quiet flat overlooking the Arno River in Florence. The mornings are slower. The pain doesn't sting like it used to. Mark told me something that still echoes in my mind. Betrayal doesn't just break you, burns away. Your illusions end in the ashes. You find your truth and damn, he was right.